Hello, I'm Robin. Welcome to Bookspin. It's time for another monthly wrap-up. We're now in March, so let's look back on what I read during February. So I started off the month by finishing off Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a new release. It's just come out in the UK. A very enjoyable first contact survival tale set on a pitch black moon in a distant star system. Now, I have reviewed this book on this channel, and I also posted an interview with the author. So if you'd like to know more about this book, check out those two videos. Secondly, I read A Canticle for Leibowitz by Walter Miller. Now, I read this book as a buddy read with Bart from Bart's Bookspace and Chris from Liminal Spaces. And we had an absolute blast reading this and discussing it together. So it's a classic post-apocalyptic novel which collates three novellas which were originally written in the 1950s, and it creates a very compelling and haunting vision of the future, I think. Beautifully written, thought-provoking, with very deep philosophical and religious themes. So the three of us discussed this. We had a group discussion which we recorded and I uploaded onto the channel a couple of days ago. So again, check that out if you'd like to know more. Thirdly, I read Dayworld by Philip Jose Farmer, the second Dayworld book that I've read in this series. Although this particular book is the first in publication order. It came out in 1985, but I read the prequel, which was published much later in January. So I'm actually reading the series in chronological order within the series rather than publication order. And I think that's working out quite well. So I really enjoyed this book. It's typical Farmer, very off-the-world, world-building, larger-than-life characters, totally unpredictable plot. I do think, however, that the prequel, Dayworld at Hole in Wednesday, is more of a polished novel. I won't go into any details here, though, because I'm saving that. I'm going to discuss all my thoughts on these books when I eventually finish this series. I'm going to make a series wrap-up video. So I've got two more books to go in the Dayworld series, and then I'll make a wrap-up video for that. And then I moved on to Destination Universe by A.E. Van Vogt. This is a classic short story collection from 1952. I've got this nice vintage ex-library copy. Let me show it to you. Yeah, this is the edition that I'm reading. I haven't finished this one yet, but I'm enjoying it so far. This volume collects stories that he published in magazines from the 1940s up until 1950. And I've heard that Van Vogt was quite a big influence on science fiction writers in his time and beyond. So he had quite a big impact on the genre. There's some quite interesting plot twists and thought-provoking ideas going on in these stories. I wouldn't say that he's my favourite classic sci-fi short story writer from what I've read so far. None of these stories have blown me away, at least not yet. I still have a few stories to go. I'm enjoying them, but I'm hoping that I'm going to find at least one 5-star story in here that's going to blow my mind. We'll see. He's no Cordwainer Smith, but we'll give him a chance. And another book I've been reading is Cynophagia. So I've reread a couple of short stories from this book. This is an anthology that I read last year. So this is an excellent anthology of modern Chinese horror stories translated into English. And the reason that I picked this book up again is I had an interview booked with Xueting Ni, who is the editor and the translator of this book, because I wanted to discuss with her a couple of amazing sci-fi horror stories from this collection. So I reread a couple of stories from this book to refresh my mind ahead of the interview. And we talked about these stories in some detail. I'm going to upload that interview to this channel soon, so keep an eye out for that. And finally, I have been listening to a non-fiction audiobook, which is my preferred method for reading non-fiction these days. This one is called The Age of Cats, From the Savannah to Your Sofa by Jonathan B. Lossos, I don't know how you pronounce that. And this book is about, you've guessed it, cats. It's mainly the evolution of cats, how cats were domesticated, the differences between wild cats and domestic cats, and genetic diversity among cat species and cat breeds, this kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting. If you've got any kind of interest in cats or evolution or natural history, I think you would enjoy it. It's very engagingly written. And I am a bit of a cat lover myself. I have my own cat. In fact, let's see if I can find him. Okay, so this is Whisker. He's 6 months old and he's a very playful kitty. He also has a never-ending appetite, and sometimes he sits on my lap when I'm reading, which is very nice. And yeah, I think he's a beautiful little fella. I'll let him go now. Anyway, those are the books that I've been reading throughout February. I've also picked up 3 new books this month. So let's take a look at those. First up, we've got 3001, The Final Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. Okay, so this is the final book in the Space Odyssey series. I saw this in Oxfam. It's only £1. I thought I had to pick this one up. So this completes the 4-book Odyssey series. So I now have a full collection. I'll show you the previous book. So this is 2001, the first book, which is an absolute classic, lovely folio edition. And I also have these nice vintage hardcovers of 2010 Odyssey 2 and 2061 Odyssey 3. And now we've got a complete collection. So the 4th book, not quite as impressive, this little paperback. I've also heard mixed reviews on 3001. But now that I have the full collection, I'm quite tempted to read through the whole series. So I'm thinking of saving that for a possible future series read. I loved 2001: A Space Odyssey, and I think I could enjoy continuing that series. Another book I picked up recently, it's quite an interesting one, is The High Crusade by Paul Anderson. I've never read this author before, but the concept in this book sounds really intriguing. It's about an alien invasion that takes place in medieval England. So that concept alone is enough to sell this to me. But it's got quite a nice vintage paperback cover there. So yeah, I will definitely give this book a try at some point. And the third book, which I received recently, I wasn't expecting. This one was sent to me, again, by Flame Tree Press. It's a new release. It's a lovely hardback. This book is called Black Friday Short Stories from Africa by Cheryl S. and Toomey. It's a short story collection. Look at that lovely shiny cover design. So I'm not familiar with this author, but I am very tempted to dip in and give this a try. It says fantasy and science fiction from a powerful African voice. So this is very appealing. I think I should give this author a try. So those are the books that I picked up recently. Right, so moving on to March. My reading plans for March. Well, first up, I need to finish Destination Universe. I'm not sure yet whether I will post a review of that book or not. I'll see how I get on, but I'm definitely going to finish it off. Then I need to read Arthur C. Clarke's The Fountains of Paradise, because I've got a buddy read planned with Ira from SF Words of Wonder, and that's going to take place sometime in March. So I'll definitely be reading that book. I will probably continue the Dayworld series. The next book in the Dayworld series is called Dayworld Rebel. So I will probably read that in March as well. And finally, I'm going to take a spin on the TBR picker and see what I can find. So this is the TBR picker, and once again, I'm going to use this to help me decide my upcoming read. A popular book that I haven't read yet. Alright, so I've taken a look through my bookshelves and I've picked out 3 books that I would say qualify as popular, and these are all books that I do really want to read. Starting off with The Anomaly by Hervé Letellier. I do hope I'm pronouncing that name right. This is a book that's translated from French. It's quite a recent book. It came out in the last few years, and it's a kind of SF thriller, as I understand it, quite mind-bending, quite exciting. Although I've not heard people talking about it much on BookTube, I think it was quite a big hit in France. In fact, it says here the 1 million copy international bestseller. So that definitely qualifies as popular. And according to Publishers Weekly, on the back, it's an extraordinary mix of existential thriller and speculative fiction, a thought-provoking literary work. So I think this could be a very enjoyable and rewarding read. Next up we have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, which is pretty popular on Sci-Fi BookTube. And I've heard a lot of good things about this book, so I probably would enjoy it. It says a Barack Obama Book of the Year. So that's got to mean something, right? I mean, I'm sure he's got good taste. I mean, if it said a Donald Trump Book of the Year, I might have my doubts, but it's got Obama's endorsement. So, yeah, the multi-million copy best-selling author of The Martian. Okay, so that could well be worth it. Right, the third option is an absolute classic. Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I really need to read this book. Winner of the Hugo Award and the Nebula Award. This is one of those books that I've never heard anything negative about. People always love this book, and I really, really, really want to read it. But I don't know if I'm quite in the mood to read that next. Among these 3 books, the one which is most appealing to me now is actually The Anomaly. Because even though they're all popular and they all get discussed quite a lot, I still don't really hear people talking about this, or at least among the booktubers that I follow. And I would like to discover my thoughts for myself about this book. So I'm going to add The Anomaly to my March TBR. Anyway, that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more sci-fi content.